Hey guys, it's Nancy, the Handy Scandy. Thanks for joining me for the first in my Fall Ventures card series for 2020. Today I am making this gorgeous card with the beautiful flowers stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, and it's one of the wonderful things that I received in my crafty swap that I did with Mona Toth earlier this year. So I have stamped it and I have heat embossed with the Brutus Monroe Coffee Grounds fine detail embossing powder, and I just put it on some watercolor paper from my stash. I think it's probably the Arteza. I think it's called Expert. I'm not sure because it was just already cut and just laying there waiting for me. So I am using this Daniel Smith watercolor paint palette. Yes, the Handy Scandy has Daniel Smith. I love it. This was gifted to me from a sweet, sweet, generous friend, and I am so happy that I have it. I can honestly tell you that all watercolors are not created equal. Yeah, and I'm so glad that I used it on this particular project, because do y'all have a project that when you were finished, you stepped back and you looked at that and you thought, I made this? I made this. I made this. This is that project for me. I can't believe that I did this. So you guys know that I'm no perfectionist. You know, I don't have like professional training or anything like that. I just do what looks good to me, and I have my life experience and my crafting experience to back me up. And it seems that what things look good to me tend to look good to other people as well. So I guess with that being said, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I do want to tell you though that I have 3 watercolor online card classes waiting for me to take them. 3. One was gifted to me from my sweet friend Gina. One I bought for myself last Christmas, Christmas of 2019. We're headed into Christmas of 2020, y'all. Why haven't I done it yet? I don't know. I'm not going to beat myself up. I just know that it's there when I'm ready. And the other one I purchased somewhere along the way in between. So I need to get busy with that. So then I will have some actual technical training behind my life experience, my personal experience in the craft room. So anyway, back to the card. I am laying down some color. My whole image is wet. I'm not really doing a whole lot of work. I'm allowing the water and the paint itself, the pigment and the paper, to really kind of do the work for me. Like I said, I have the whole thing wet, so when I get some of that pigment, that beautiful creamy pigment on my brush, I just touch it down for the most part and I let it spread. And then once that spot is dry, I go back and I add a little more pigment, and I might pull it out with a clean brush, or you know, my water isn't clean, but a cleaner brush with less pigment, so that I'm just using the pigment that's on the paper, and then I'm pulling it out with the water. So I'm helping it to spread a little bit. But you know, for the longest time, I always felt like the tools did the work. And yeah, they do. I mean, tools matter, right? Our products matter. That's why we hoard them. That's why we buy them. That's why we, want the next best thing. Not that we need the next best thing, but we like them because they do matter. But in the end, you can make something absolutely stunning with, shopping your stash, using things you haven't used in years, because it's the person behind the tools that's making the project, right? So I can look back and say, I made this card? Yes, I made this card, and it's frame worthy. Doggone it, this is frame worthy. And before this is all said and done, I may decide to keep it and put it in a frame to decorate my craft room. And that's okay. It's good to take pride in our work, right? We want to go one further. We want to step it up. We want to learn more. We want to hone our skills. And I feel like, at least on this card, it kind of exemplifies all of that. Do all my cards look fantastic? No, they don't. Am I super proud of all of them? No, I'm not. Am I happy in the end with the outcome? Yes, because I know that on that particular project, on each particular project, I gave my all in that moment. And that's going to look different for all of us on any given day, and different throughout any given day, right? I mean, we're not at our best at 6 o'clock in the morning or at 6 o'clock at night. It's somewhere in between probably, and it's not going to stay the same throughout the day. So that's okay. Again, it goes back to showing ourselves grace, recognizing where we need growth, not beating ourselves up, but growing next time. And I feel like that's where I'm at on this card. And I've probably said that before in a different way, but I'm still shocked and amazed. So I'm having fun with the process. I'm laying down the paint, and again, I'm using the buff on this one, and I go in with just a little bit of that. It's really kind of it reminds me of Rusty Hinge. You know, if you guys have the Distress Oxide or any of the Distress line that has the Rusty Hinge, that's what that particular color that I'm blending with into the buff reminds me of. So you can see that the flower in the middle has a lot of that kind of Rusty Hinge color to it, right? It's that rusty red brown kind of look. The one on the right is a little more purpley red. That's kind of the wine color. And then the one on the left is the buff with the Rusty Hinge-ish color. I don't know what to call it. If you want to know the exact colors I used, let me know downstairs in the comments, and I can go back to my palette and let you know. But I'm not going to list them down below because I just pick up what looks good to me in the moment. You guys know that. I'm just a fly by the seat of my pants crafter and painter, and when I color, it's the same thing. So, but I don't want all my color or all my flowers to be the exact same. I want them to coordinate. I want them to look well together, just like when you're putting a real bouquet together, right? You don't put all of the same color. You mix and match, and you coordinate, and you want depth and dimension. And that's how you get it. You pull together colors that look good together. Maybe you blend the same color, you know, from the middle, like on my middle flower, and that Rusty Hinge like color is the basis of the middle flower, and then I blend that with the flowers or with the paints for all three. Is that clear as mud? Let me know if you need me to explain that better downstairs. I'd love to be more clear. Maybe I will be in written form than I am talking. So I'm almost done here. I don't show you the painting of the leaves, but again, I just take various shades of green and I mix them and I layer them and I blend them, and some of them get blended right on the paper, some of them get blended on the palette lid, and I just kind of go with what feels right in the moment, just like the rest of the image. And so on the rose buds, you see I've got some of that same kind of wine color, and it's really deep and dark. And so because it's so dark, those buds have really lost a lot of their dimension. So in a little bit, I take some fresh water, well, water from my paint dish. It's not really fresh, it's not really clean, but there's no paint in my brush. And so I just put the water down on the buds, and then I take my little, what is this called? Microfiber towel. And I dab on the wet rose buds, and that allows me to pick up some of that pigment so you can see the detail in those rose buds. And then I just go back afterwards and I add some different colors. Like I add a little bit of orange to the bud on the left, and so that gives it its own character. And I add some of the buff, I want to say, to the ones on the right, the rose buds on the right. And then they each coordinate here. See, this is where I'm lifting off some of that color. They each continue to coordinate, but they have their own distinct color and their own distinct character, even though they're just little rose buds, right? But they're part of the image. They're part of the bouquet. So we want them to be as pretty as the rest of it. So you can see that pulled up some of that color, and you can see some of the detail back in those images again. And I am pretty much done with that part. So here you can see where I've added the different shades into the rose buds, and I did my leaves with the greens. And here I'm just taking that buff and I'm just going in between the nooks and crannies. I want to add like a halo, I guess that's what I'll call it. I don't know if that's the technical term for it or not, but that's the Nancy term. We're calling it a halo. And I'm just taking the buff, I'm going, like I said, in the nooks and crannies all the way up to the edges, and then I'm pulling it out. And I want to fade out to nothing, you know, fade all the way out to just the paper. And I don't know that I'm extremely successful with the fade out, but in the end it looks okay. So I go all the way around the whole image with the buff, and then I come in with a little bit darker just to kind of vintage it up. Is that a word? Vintage is up. My lips don't want to work, per usual. Make it look more vintage. How's that? I think that's probably more correct, grammatically correct. So again, just like I did with the buff, I take this darker brown and I just go all the way around, but I thin it down with the water so it doesn't look near as dark. And if you are familiar at all with watercolors, then you know you can get a variety of hues of one color just by the amount of water that you add to it. So after I was done painting, I went to town with the splatter. So I took colors from the palette that I used on my image and I splattered them all over at their full intensity. And you want to do that because you want your colors that you're splattering with to marry with your actual project. So I did that with probably the green and the rust and the wine colors. And then I took my Brutus Monroe Gilded and Pearl metallic aqua pigments and I splattered them around. And then I felt like I just needed some darker. So I came in with the dark brown and then I splattered that as well. And you can see those darker splatters there. And because, well, for a couple reasons, I decided that I would do the ink blending. I want to say that's the walnut stain. And I went around the image. You can see that I die cut it out with my Pink Fresh Studios Slim Ornate Banner die. And I just felt like, it's the water stain that was too stark, and then because there's so much antique look to this, when I put it on my card base that's just white, it was too stark. So I decided that I would do a little ink blending around the edges of both, and that marries them together perfectly. So I popped my die cut up on some foam tape that I just got from Amazon, and that gives it, because it's just a one layer card really. So I like the dimension. So I popped the whole panel up on the foam tape, and then I pull out my Honeybee Kiss. I think it's just called Kisses, right? I don't have that in front of me either. But again, as always, I will link and list it below. But it's the Kisses stamp set as well as the Honeycuts dies. I just got my Honeycuts dies in a haul. I haven't done that video yet, but it says Hugs and Kisses Just For You. The Just For You is from another Pink Fresh set that I don't have in front of me. I'm sorry, I'll link and list it below as well. And of course I didn't feel like I had enough shimmer and shine, so I had to take my Wink Estella to the entire image, and then I use my Gina Marie embellishment dots. I will have these listed and linked below as well. And y'all, you hear me rave about these dots all the time, and if you've not checked them out, let me encourage you. You don't have to go buy everything, but go look. Just have that resource in your brain to know that when you're ready, Gina Marie Designs is a good place for embellishment dots and for dies and for stamps and for other supplies, because she just has a sweet little store. There are so many sweet little independently owned stores out there, guys. Do your research. Support small. We want to support our big guys too, because they're like leaders in the industry, but we want to support small. So this is my final card, and guys, I made that. I made that. I don't know if you're as shocked as I am, but I made that. Let me know downstairs what you guys think. Do you have projects where you were stunned and amazed that you did it? Let me know what you'd like to see in this fall series, because I have lots of things up my sleeve. And like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. I'd love to have you. And let me know downstairs what you'd like to see. Thanks for joining me, guys. This is Nancy, the Handy Scandy, and we'll see you again real soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.